All right, girls, let's go. It's time to go to school. Okay, everything? Got your backpacks?
Yep.
All right, let's go. You got it. You got it. Sure you got everything? Okay. So a question I often get asked is why Rome? Isn't that one of the most religious cities in the world? You got the Vatican there, you have the Pope there. It's one of the most Christian places in the world. So what's the point of having someone there planting churches and sharing the gospel if it's already there? That's a product of a huge misunderstanding about Roman Catholicism. Rome as a city is full of religion, but it's void of the gospel. You walk around and every corner there's signs of this desire to do something for God. Whether you go to see the holy steps, people climbing on their knees, they're climbing and doing something to draw closer to God. But God is this far off figure who's at the top of these stairs, figuratively speaking, and you're trying to get to Him and showing Him how contrite your heart is. But the gospel is the total opposite. It's God who came down to us to grab us and say, there's nothing that you can do. I've done it for you through Jesus Christ. So it's Christ who steps in your place and takes those sins from you. And so what we see at the heart of Roman Catholicism is a false gospel. Rome becomes then one of the darkest places in the world. You definitely realize the vastness of lostness here. Kyra and I were married in December of 2006. We moved up to Louisville to attend Southern Seminary. And it was there that we sensed the Lord calling us to serve abroad. The Lord made it very clear that Rome was the place we were to serve. So we lived in Louisville for 2 years until the summer of 2009 when we moved abroad to Rome. A few months after we arrived, we learned about a new church plant in Rome called Breccia di Roma. And I met the pastor and we began attending. I serve at the church alongside Leonardo as associate pastor. The Lord provided for us to be able to buy our own building. And that was an extremely exciting and even significant day because it was the first time since 1925 that in the city center of Rome, an evangelical church or institution had bought a piece of property. It's in the heart of the city. It's literally a stone's throw from the Colosseum. It's a short drive to the Vatican City. It's surrounded by Catholic seminaries that are very influential worldwide. So it's a small place, but at the same time, there are huge steps forward for the presence of the gospel on the culture and the people who live there.
The first time that we met, I was impressed by Reed and Kyra, by asking them, what's your dream? What's your desire? Are you ready to die here? And Reed and Kyra told me, yes, we're ready to die here. This is our home. They had just arrived and they knew that their calling was a long-term calling of God, and they certainly had counted the cost.
We're talking about doing ministry in a context that has been shaped by one institution for 2,000 plus years. And you don't just come in and knock that down, even probably in one lifetime. It takes a long commitment, it takes years, it takes a lifetime. We had been living in Rome for just about 6 years together when we came up on our second furlough. So we went back to the States for 2 months. And we were just about ready to come back to Rome. As we typically do before we head back, we wanted to get together with our family, have dinner, and just enjoy each other's company before heading back. And so we were driving northbound on a highway heading back home, and not really saying much, just kind of reflective, I think. And at one point, I kind of noticed out of my peripheral vision that there was something that just kind of seemed a little bit off. There was a big 18-wheeler that was entering into the road perpendicularly to our vehicle. And just in a matter of the split second, it hit us in the side and T-boned us. And rolled us over and pushed us across the northbound lanes of this highway, and then through the median, and then across the southbound lane as well until we hit a guardrail. And on the impact, Kyra passed away immediately. The hardest moment for sure was the day me and the girls walked into our apartment, for the first time without Kyra. And, there's just this reality that you could just feel the absence. I do remember that first time sitting down and trying to prepare myself mentally for prayer and talking to God. And it was just a really big, kind of as a test of your faith. There was definitely kind of these real moments of, I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to do or how to even pray. I think it was after the funeral that I really had time to really sit down and consider, what does the future look like for us?
We were driving from the airport to Atlanta, and I whispered to Reed, the Lord needs you here in Rome. And I strongly encourage you to consider coming back and to continue to serve the cause of the gospel in the city.
I really didn't even allow myself that possibility, just knowing what it would take. Although there was a desire to think about going back to Rome, it just didn't even seem feasible or possible. Like, how am I going to come back and raise 3 little girls? At the time, they were 6, 4, and 2. And then being a single dad who's, got a job and responsibilities to do, and knowing that I don't have family around to help. Thinking about going back to Rome seemed insurmountable, really, as a possibility. I thought about my neighbors. I thought about our friends, thinking about people like Luke and Elena, who are good people, but they didn't know Christ. The Lord just totally changed my perspective on things, being reminded of the tremendous lostness here. And just knowing the need for a gospel reformation here that may or may not come in my lifetime, but wanting to be a part of that and wanting to contribute in some way. The Lord made it very clear that going back to Rome was what the Lord was calling me and the girls to do. But that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's going to be difficult, but if the Lord's calling me to do this, I knew that He'll provide and He'll make it possible.
Reed's decision to come back to Rome has affected the church tremendously. And not only for the church, but also for his friends and non-believing neighbors.
When he met us after the accident, he was there with a smile. And it was so shocking for me. There is no way to understand that if you haven't faith, because it's impossible.
The fact that a young man would come back in such conditions was a clear example of the way in which the grace of God works in people's lives.
When I met the Carr family, I didn't believe, and for me the important was my life and myself. Little by little, I started to think about my life. From that time, everything changed.
We have seen conversions happening after Reed's decision to come back, because it was such a powerful testimony of the gospel working in people's lives.
Today, our life is totally changed. God is in every moment of our life. Without Kyra and Reed, we will never change our life.
If Kyra saw what ministry was like for us today, of course her heart would overflow with joy to see Elena and Luca coming to church, being baptized, living their lives for God and the Lord. She would certainly rejoice in the fruit that's come since her passing. You know, if you had told me what was going to happen, you know, look, you're going to go home on furlough, you're going to be just about to come back, but then Kyra's going to be killed in a freak accident. And then you're going to take the girls back yourself and raise them and do it. I mean, it was laughed at you and said, that's absolutely ridiculous and crazy. It's not possible. Doing ministry and taking care of the girls and being a dad, and people ask me, you know, how do you do it? I was like, I don't know. This is the Lord, you know. It's just, it gives an opportunity to brag on the Lord and say, you know, He's just so gracious. He gives us the grace we need. One lesson that I believe the Lord's taught me more than any other is that His grace is sufficient. No matter the challenge that He places before you, no matter what scenario He puts you in, you can think it's completely impossible, but if He allows it and He puts you in it, then He's going to provide for you. And even when we think things are impossible, God's grace is sufficient.